Welcome in to game number 2 between Team Kessel and Galaxy from CTL's week number 5. Spawning in the lower left-hand portion of GSL Atlantis Space Bear. In the purple color, his team's up 1-0. Can he bring his team another point? It is MellowHype. And in the 12 o'clock base, in the pink color, playing for Galaxy, it is the Zerg player GXY.HydraOne. We'll see if GXY.HydraOne lives up to his name and makes some Hydras. I'm actually kind of interesting. It's been a while since I've seen any of them, especially since I've really started playing Terra, and you definitely don't see them in that matchup. But yeah, Hydras would be exciting. MellowHype, we do see Pylon on the low ground, so going to go for a very traditional Forge Fast expand. I guess it could still be a Gateway expand. I'm not going to rule it out. But it's going to be an expand of some sort. This is our first Silver League game, which means, again, we're not seeing the highest level play necessarily, but both players will probably try to adopt a somewhat professional style of play, although we will see kind of weird things thrown in from time to time. And that's really what makes this league exciting, is you never quite know what's going to happen. GXY.HydraOne going to send out an early scout, maybe not too early, a 13 supply scout, but he really wants to get in there and see what his opponent's up to, just make sure that there's something coming down on the low ground, and we do see the Forge there. And playing very safe right now. He is going to throw down that expansion, especially if they're not seeing the probe yet. This should feel pretty safe to him. And there he goes. So we'll see the pool after the hatchery. And everything going to progress in a very macro style, I assume. And the first reaction is probably going to come from our Protoss player, and we'll see if he wants to do a more expansion-focused player, if he's going to do 2-base. This is GSL Atlantis Space Bear. If you don't know, this map looks exactly like a bear. I can only point it out on the mini-map, but here are the eyes right here for the bear. You got little ears coming off here. There's could be the rest of its face. And these are definitely little paws, as far as I'm concerned. The two bases here. So yeah. It definitely looks like a bear. I don't care what you have to say other than that. Now, for actual general features of this map, your second base, pretty easy to take. Zerg players tend to have an easier time with this third base, just because they can put on pressure once they do get their third base. For Protoss players, third base is a nightmare. You get it down here, and you open yourself up to big major attacks into your second and third area, or you can have things swing back toward your third. Mutalisks are actually okay on this map. One of the few maps in this map pool that I would say Mutalisks are pretty good on, but you can swing between your opponent's third and around to your opponent's main a little bit quicker than they can actually get there to defend. So it can be very good for that style of play, although you will tend to see more infestor play just because that's more standard. See, GXY.HydraOne has laid his pool quite... Wow, my races are wrong. Excuse me. There we go. Just to make sure we fix that. GXY.HydraOne, we did see delay his pool quite a bit, and just finally having it finish up at 28 supply means that he has a pretty significant amount of drones for this time in the game, and his minerals will be skyrocketing here before too long. So we'll see if that transitions well into either more bases and more drones, or a little bit of pressure perhaps. MellowHype at his front, putting down his first Zealot, has his Cybernetics core on the way, and researching a very, very quick +1 melee attacks upgrade. This upgrade, if you are unfamiliar with this matchup, allows your Zealots to start 2-hitting Zergs rather than 3-hitting them, which can be very powerful in early battles. It also just leads to increased damage if we're going to go attack the third. So typically this is seen on pressure style builds, and we'll probably see him add on quite a few extra gateways or something of that variety. We see the two workers just kind of chilling in the middle of the map right now. Looks like GXY.HydraOne finally going to give up on that little chase as the drone keeps starting in and out of the smoke clouds, being very annoying. I keep playing this by the wrong name. The Protoss workers are, of course, called probes, not drones. Just to clarify that. Two spine crawlers at the front, and GXY.HydraOne seems a little bit alert that his opponent does want to put on some pressure. We see 2 more gateways added on by MellowHype so far, and now adding on another one for a total of 4. 4-gate aggression off of 2 bases can work it tends to be a little bit lower supply of units, and you have to have really good micro to make it work to its fullest effect. But you see MellowHype playing very safe, has his 2 sentries as well as his zealot, and adding on the Twilight Council. This is kind of an interesting choice from a silver level player, just because Twilight Council tends to indicate Blink at least early on. Blink Micro, however, might elude some silver players, at least in terms of finesse. You can do a lot of really cool things with Blink, but making roaches trade or stalkers trade effectively against roaches and spine crawlers is very difficult without that high level of micro. If we look at the holy crap, APM tab, 171 for MellowHype and 73 for HydraOne. 171 is a little bit ridiculous, but he's mostly been spinning through that early game. We'll see kind of where that drops off to. But there is that Blink upgrade from MellowHype going up to a 50 is 60 Blink is definitely a possibility, although the 6 gateway is nowhere in sight. Just 6-gate Blink tends to be the more normal bookmark, trademark strategy. Plus 2 weapons on the way, and I don't know exactly what distinct advantage plus 2 gives you over plus 1, except that your zealots will start hitting like trucks. And there actually is the 6 gateway being added on. We don't see any pylons across the map. Really the only vision right now for MellowHype is at this watchtower. It does see the across the map from HydraOne. There's not too many of them, only 8. So this attack, never mind, there's 12, excuse me. But this attack still shouldn't do too much damage. More cannons being added on, and we do see more warpins back at home. A couple of stalkers, more sentries to help deal with this. And this should be pretty easy to defend for MellowHype. Just not quite that crushing number of roaches yet. In come the roaches, nice force fields. He traps a couple of these roaches. Now starting to pick away at the forge. And really nice force fields, I have to say, by MellowHype. Able to keep these roaches from attacking, being too crucial. Even gets a couple of them for free, and we see HydraOne going to pull back. Only 6 roaches currently, as opposed to the 12 he started with. And now MellowHype starting to get up that dominating force. We see more and more roaches being added on, 13, 18 now in production, and I'm sure there were more added in there. But this is looking like we're going to have a really interesting battle before long. There's the move out from MellowHype, and he catches a lot of these roaches. The force field's not great that time, not quite doing their intended job, but he will catch a couple of extra roaches and head toward the center of the map. This is a pretty intimidating force. He's used a lot of his force fields, so he's pretty low on energy. He only have, if I had to guess, I'd say 3, maybe 4 force fields left. And that is a little bit of a cause for concern for him, as we see just more and more roaches being added on, 10 more in production for HydraOne, and the supply lead really kicking in for him, 140 supply to 80. Proxy Pylon is finished for MellowHype. He does have Blink now, as he heads into the 3rd base of HydraOne. This is now finally scouted by HydraOne, and the Queen will fall very quickly. And what will he start targeting down? Does he want to go after drones or the hatchery itself? It looks like nothing in particular. He's going to try and pull his units back into a ball. In comes HydraOne. That's a nice group of force fields cutting off about half of the roaches. So this concave really favoring the Protoss right now. We do see Blink being used, kind of, as he loses a couple more roaches. Force fields coming down, not the most effective, and he's going to be forced to retreat. HydraOne able to defend with just kind of crushing roach numbers. Force fields ran out, all sentries are now dead, and the roaches still pursuing. More reinforcements have come to the pylon, but it's not going to matter too much for MellowHype, and he'll have to blink away. 153 supply now to 70. If we look at workers killed, only 4 to 2 so far, so nothing too staggering. An extra Queen headed down to the 3rd. Luckily, the group spread nearly back to the base, so that's not going to take quite so long. More Queens in production, more roaches as well, and HydraOne just going for that big max-out roach army and going to go crush his opponent fairly soon. 2-1 add on, and out come the roaches. Let's see how many there are. Currently 24 and 32 plus 7 more, 39 right there. 41, 42, 43, 44 roaches. But this is still going to be very difficult to engage into. It is mostly Blink, not mostly Blink Stalkers, it's almost entirely Blink Stalkers. There was a probe in there. By the way, this is a really cheeky Overseer. It hasn't been spotted this entire game. Just kind of chilling up here. robotics facility added on. He's adding on a couple of immortals, or one immortal, excuse me, to try and combat this mass roach style. This is really easy for me to say. The problem is he doesn't have any sentries left, so any engagement has to happen pretty much on the roach's terms right now. Nice blink back as he takes some of the damage away from his army by using the cliff face here. But now the stalker's just falling so quickly, and blink micro not quite the best. We see the targeting done by the roaches not quite the best as they're trying to chase some of the stalkers into the back. Now it looks like he's just on an A move. The concave just so much in favor of the Zerg right now. But now headed back toward the cannons. HydraOne going to be forced back. There's the aggressive blink to try and pick off a couple more of these roaches. But HydraOne forced to fall back and at least try and regroup a couple more units. 16 more roaches in production. We even see the minerals and gas skyrocketing, so he'll have enough for more very soon. And very smartly adds on that infestation pit, adds on pathogen lands, going for hive. So while this roach aggression keeps continually trading with the Protoss army, forcing them to focus mainly on blink stalkers and immortals, adding on a couple of sentries to try and help. But just trying to combat this, we do see the changelings drop, so now he should be aware of that overseer on the high ground, maybe trying to use it as a little bit of bait, but they're smartly seeing roaches and splits his forces. Let's actually check APM. Fallen off a little bit, still 158 for a silver level player is pretty remarkable for MellowHype. 99 for a Zerg player, not too bad either. More and more roaches on the way, Burrow on the way as well. Hive is about 3/4 of the way done. We see the roaches kind of separating, trying to get a good concave. MellowHype sees that, punishes one of the roaches by shooting him a couple of times. But now HydraOne nearly maxed out. We do have another train of roaches kind of headed across the map, and this is getting to be a ridiculous army. 60 roaches total. There are, of course, no other units in with this, so these immortals, these sentries are going to be worth a lot. If you can down a good force field, cut the army in half, it's going to be fantastic. And right now, HydraOne looks like he's setting up a little bit of a trap. If MellowHype does try to move out through this area, these roaches will just kind of force their own concave. And the other player wants to engage into this little choke point here, so we have a little bit of a standoff. Right now, that definitely favors HydraOne, as our Protoss player unable to add on another base. And soon he'll be starved out of his main. If we look, starting to get a little bit dry on these mineral patches, still not fully saturated in his natural either. If we look now, worker count, oh, he's making a mistake, I think. We're just come in, this is a beautiful concave, but those are nice force fields trying to cut off a lot of these reinforcing roaches. I would argue that this is a little bit better positioning for the Protoss player now as he forces his way through that choke point, and the force field's really held up there. There's a mass burrow from HydraOne, and he's adding on more roaches, which is kind of interesting. Also adding on this fourth base, which is a really interesting base on this map. There's the unburrow from the roaches as he tries to pick up a couple of these units, and right now he's just kind of stalling, buying time. I'd love to see him put down a spire and try and get up a couple of them broodlords, but that's not going to be the case as these roaches force back, and he's going to have to make his own stand now. 3 immortals with this army doing so much damage. We see they all have a handful of kills each. Only 1 sentry left alive might be a cause for concern. And we see, uh-oh, shark mode. These aren't shark mode roaches quite yet, but they are sharking. What's he waiting for? He's directly underneath his opponent's army. There's no observer with it. He may try and put the immortals in the back. There's the mass unburrow. He picks off an immortal immediately. There's the blink back from the stalkers, but the immortals left unguarded. They all go down very quickly, and there's the burrow again. Very nicely done by HydraOne. We see the resources starting to skyrocket during these micro situations. More stalkers being added on by MellowHype in a last-ditch effort. He needs to try and blink away now, finally confront his opponent's army, but HydraOne just has so many roaches, even leaving another immortal unguarded at the front. Will it get picked off? It will fall there as the roaches take it down. An observer finally here will be able to detect these burrow roaches. Burrow roaches, affectionately known as shark roaches by me. Shark mode, of course, is when we finally get tunneling claws. You see, this isn't the best course of action as he does have the observer floating right over the army. Loses a couple of roaches for free, although not the biggest concern. And we see there's no immortals with this army. This is only stalkers. He blinks into a nice concave, but I think just the pure power of these 2-2 roaches, overrunning the 2-0 stalkers, without the armor upgrades, they're just getting shredded by the roaches. Even into this worst concave, HydraOne backing off for now, making more roaches back behind this, and finally going to be able to push through. And MellowHype will GG, well, not really GG, but GG anyway, and Galaxy will take game number 2 and tie up the series to 1 game apiece. I'm not sure exactly why the replay is going on. It looks like HydraOne just wanted to kill a couple more of his opponent's buildings for fun. There we go, he finally leaves the game. So really well played game by HydraOne, just kind of massing roaches, and able to choose good engagements for them. The particularly good engagement happened right here, where he had his burrowed roaches underneath his opponent's army and able to separate his opponent's immortals from his stalkers. Really took away a lot of the power of his opponent's army composition. The upgrades also definitely came into play. 2-2 upgrades, and 3-2 at the end of the game, but 2-2 for most of the major battles versus 2-0 for his opponent just meant that there were no armor upgrades on the stalkers, and the roaches just kind of shredded through them. So that'll do it for game number 2. We'll head right back with game number 3. It'll be our first gold level game. Right after this, don't go anywhere. Galaxy and Team Kessel tied at 1. You're watching CTL, casted by Meristematic.